In this demonstration, you'll learn how to connect to the DiveLine server on which your WorkBench projects will reside. We'll begin by launching WorkBench from the taskbar. The WorkBench Start page appears on the screen. The area on the right is where WorkBench lists information about your default and recent connections. But because we haven't created any connections yet, this part of the Start page is blank. A recent connection is a connection that was active in a recent WorkBench work session. A default connection is a connection that you set up so that it logs into the server for you automatically when you start WorkBench. We'll set up our connection so that we can start WorkBench and then log in manually. We'll start creating a connection to our DiveLine server by selecting File, Open Connection. The Quick Connections dialog box appears on the screen. If you've created a Quick Connection icon for one or more existing connections, those icons appear here. We haven't created any connections yet, so we want to go straight to the Connection Manager. In addition, we want to prevent this dialog box from appearing every time File Open Connection is selected. To do this, we'll check Always Go Straight to Connection Manager and then click the Connection Manager button. The Connection Manager dialog box appears on the screen. In this dialog box, we'll enter all the information you need to log into a server, including your username, your password, the name of the server you're connecting to, and the server port through which you'll make the connection. To start this process, we'll click the green plus sign at the top of the screen. A placeholder name for the new connection appears near the top of the Connection Manager dialog box, and the Connection Details pane appears at the bottom. In the Connections Details pane, next to Host, you can enter either the name of the DiveLine server you're connecting to or the IP address of the server, followed by a colon and the port number for the connection. Typically, you would get the port number from your system administrator. We'll enter a server name and then a port number. Now we'll enter text for a label. By default, WorkBench names the connection using the text you enter in the host box, but you can enter a more descriptive name in the label box if you so choose. Next, we'll enter a username and password. Finally, we'll add a comment to remind us of the purpose of this connection. Now we'll click Connect to save our connection information and test our connection. A message appears as the connection is being made, and then the Open Project dialog box appears, indicating that we're logged in and ready to work. We'll select Cancel for now. The name of the connection we just created, DiveLine Server, appears in the upper right corner of the window in the Connections list. This confirms that we have an active connection and can begin working in WorkBench. The connection name also appears under Recent Connections in the middle of the screen next to a set of tool buttons and at the far left of the screen. Now let's see what happens when we close WorkBench and then restart it. WorkBench again displays the name of the connection we just created, DiveLine Server, under Recent Connections, but this time a login button appears next to the connection name. We're not yet connected to the server, as we can see from both the No Connection message below our connection name and the empty connection list at the top right. To finish connecting to the server, we'll click Login. The name of our connection appears in the connection list, and the tool buttons replace the login button next to the connection name under Recent Connections, showing us that a connection has been established and that we can now begin working in WorkBench. So that's how you connect to your DiveLine server for the first time. You select File, Open Connection, click the Connection Manager button, click the green plus sign, Enter your server name or IP address followed by a colon and the port number, a label, if you choose, a username, and a password, and click Connect.